There's a couple brand new Nintendo Switch stories we need to talk about today, starting with Nintendo officially announcing something for Mario Kart this week, but not what fans were looking for. Then the big talking point for today's video has to do with Nintendo Switch Online, the surprise round of game updates that just hit the service, a breakdown of what those games are, and a large discussion around what we need to see from Nintendo Switch Online, specifically the base tier, going forward. What's up, Nation? If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you join Sunbro Nation by subscribing below, hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. Now, as mentioned, guys, we are breaking down a couple different stories today, and we have to kick it off with a conversation around Nintendo and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, because we are all waiting for DLC Wave 2 to be officially unveiled and announced, and Nintendo did actually announce something Mario Kart related today, or reconfirmed it rather, because they did previously reference this, and a lot of people actually led this as part of the conclusion that most likely this would be the week that we would see the announcement of Wave 2 in Booster Course Pass DLC. However, unless if they decide to surprise shadow drop it very late in the evening on a Friday, which I do not see them doing, I don't think there is any hope that we can experience their ongoing tournament to help engagement on the game with these new tracks that we all want to play that we were waiting to be revealed. But you can see the following posted up over on Nintendo of America's Twitter, where it says, hit the starting line in Mario Kart North America Open July 2022 now. Use the tournament ID below to enter, then place top 8 within the tournament period to win 2,500 My Nintendo Gold points. Now listen, 2,500 gold points is awesome, and it's cool to see Nintendo support things like official tournaments for some of their more competitive games out there, being your Mario Karts, your Splatoons of the world, and then also even Smash Bros from time to time. It's great to see that ongoing support, but why would you not market the tournament around the same time that the Booster Course Wave Pass 2 drops? Because everybody's wanting to hop back in and have a reason to boot up Mario Kart again. We're all waiting for those new tracks to hit, and unless Nintendo completely throws a curveball and announces passes very close to each other, which I don't see them doing, we have to expect it either late July or early mid-August at the latest, before we have to talk about like the November time window that will most likely be where Wave 3 takes place. And while Nintendo could definitely market it, announce it, and drop it next week, or at least give us the date that it is coming next week, we also know that with big marquee titles for Nintendo, they like to focus on those almost exclusively leading up to their launch, and we do have Xenoblade Chronicles 3 dropping late next week, so that should get most of the spotlight, causing a lot of people to wonder and speculate, is August now where we have to set our sights for Wave 2 for Booster Course Pass? I'm just going to temper my expectations and think late August, just so I'm not sitting here waiting around, but it very well could happen at any time. I definitely wouldn't expect any kind of announcements over the weekend, most likely Monday through Friday being the only time that Nintendo would actually go out there and drop this thing. And whether or not they give us a trailer to promote it and then announce the actual launch date a week or two afterwards will remain to be seen. I just hope they shadow drop it with how long we've been waiting now, and I'm very excited to see what tracks are included in Wave 2. I've obviously been playing Mario Kart my entire life, so with a lot of the tracks holding nostalgia for me, I really want to experience them now today on the Switch with online play and all of the modern enhancements that have been added to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And I'm personally a big fan of the roadmap for these Booster Course Pass waves, and to think how many total playable tracks we will have on one Mario Kart game when this is all said and done, with an install base of users of 40 million strong, which is just like the craziest number ever. It sounds like Nintendo's decision to port that game from the Wii U will ultimately make it the ultimate Mario Kart experience, and I would just love to see continued support for those tracks into whatever is next for Mario Kart, kind of creating that Smash Ultimate experience where you have a large history of stages over all the courses of Mario Kart games to experience out of the gate, plus all the new tracks they add in, and then let's just get crazy and really just support Nintendo's wider character roster across the board. Don't change it to Nintendo Kart, because I think Mario Kart just has that household name that people know and love, but definitely integrate and collaborate with a large number of Nintendo IP characters, and don't just keep it so close to the Mario universe. Sure, we have Zelda, Animal Crossing, and Splatoon franchise support in the series, but I think we could go further than that in the future. So I want to hear from you guys on your personal thoughts around the announcement for the tournament today. Are you going to be participating over the weekend and actually trying to secure those 2,500 gold points? What do you think Nintendo's strategy is with booster course pass waves going forward? Do you think we get them shadow dropped with a announcement trailer and it's just immediately live and ready to go? Do you think it's something where they announce the tracks and then they give us a week or two to build up our anticipation? And what track/character support do you want to see from the Mario Kart franchise going forward, period? So I want to hear from you guys on all things Mario Kart and the future DLC to come in the comments down below. Now, the other story we're talking about today has to do with Nintendo Switch Online and the surprise addition of new games late last night. And I think it's safe to say that Nintendo has figured out how to avoid that maintenance bot account that we've sometimes seen kind of give us an indication a day or two in advance of when Nintendo would be adding games to the service, because the last couple rounds of updates, these have just been straight up shadow dropped and nobody's had any kind of heads up or indication, whereas previously we could watch that Nintendo status bot account to kind of give us a 24-48 hour heads up window that there was maintenance scheduled. So whatever Nintendo's done behind the scenes now appears to have worked, because nobody was expecting these games to drop and they did. However, you should not write home about these games. They're nothing spectacular when it comes to SNES and NES library of games, but you do have to at least acknowledge that Nintendo hasn't just totally forgotten about the consoles like they did once upon a time. But I would just temper expectations for future updates to be these bottom of the barrel games that Nintendo really doesn't have to spend much in the way of licensing fees or rights, because they really were either not well-known games or they just have ran their sales course and really don't have that demand that you can maybe release them in some kind of collection pack or things like that. Like, there's such a long history of gaming obviously over the years that Nintendo can essentially go to the bottom of that bin that you would see at something like a used gaming store, where you have like the 50-cent 99-cent games that you can just pick up because they don't have high fan demand behind them. As you can see, the following posted up on Nintendo of America's Twitter, where they say 3 classic Super NES and NES titles are now live for Nintendo Switch Online members. Super NES Nintendo Switch Online gets Kirby's Avalanche Fighters History, and NES Nintendo Switch Online gets Divia Story 6 Imperial of Stardia. Like, it is definitely an interesting lineup, one of which definitely being a Street Fighter clone, as you can just see it in the gameplay itself. And I believe there's even some history behind this, with Capcom taking this particular game developer to court over it with how similar it was, basically a clone of it. Now, Kirby is seeing a lot of love lately, and this is a match puzzle style game that I'm not particularly hyped about. I probably won't boot any of these up, to be honest with you. Nothing really actually stuck out to me that makes me want to update my app and go in and check out these games. But Kirby, for his 35th year of existence, has certainly seen a lot of support, and I definitely think Nintendo is showing more love for Kirby lately than they have for any other franchises that have crossed that milestone. And then Divia Story from the NES, NES games, as much as they are still enjoyable in the current era, I do feel like you have to have some kind of nostalgia for the title to really enjoy it, or it just has to be a top tier game, and that is not what Nintendo is doing as of late, specifically with the base tier of NSO games. I don't think that we can actually expect them to add in very quality titles to this thing, as it seems like their real focus around getting new subscribers has all shifted to the expansion pack, where even in the last round of Sega Genesis games that were added into the expansion pack, we saw that Mega Man Wily collection, which is a fantastic remake of classic Mega Man games being Capcom titles. Nintendo is paying money for things on that front, whereas it seems like they are not on the end of Super NES and NES games, because there are those fan classics that we've been waiting for this entire time, like your Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars, like the Star Wars games that were from the Super Nintendo era, the Mickey Mouse platformers that hit, Goof Troop the video game. I don't know why I have so much nostalgia for that one, but I do. I was a child when playing it. It was just like the coolest thing ever for me. But all of those games, I'm guessing, require some kind of additional fee that Nintendo at this point in time is just not willing to spend. But I do hope that we see broader support and better titles in the future. But just to keep my expectations on the lower end going forward, I would expect more no-name titles and the lower stuff. I don't think we're getting the classic NES collection of Mega Man games hitting the service, even though there was a leak with a build that did actually have those games in there. So maybe in the far distant future, but it seems like Nintendo isn't trying to hype up the base tier at all, and just assumes that most people will pay for the $20 a year to get things like access to online play, and really the game collection is essentially an afterthought at this point, and for new hype games. And you can argue they're not hype for everybody, but I would look more towards the expansion pack in terms of some quality Sega Genesis games that we have seen added in recent months, as well as that one new N64 game per month that Nintendo even reconfirmed recently would not end after the announced roadmap of games were finished up. And hopefully before too much longer, we are talking about the Game Boy family of systems entering into the expansion pack with things like GBA, Game Boy, and Game Boy Color. And if they really want to get crazy with that library, just throw in some of the classic Pokemon games from that era. You will absolutely sell mad numbers, in my opinion. I want to hear from you guys at this point in the video on both the different stories we talked about today. How do you feel about Nintendo and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe lately? Do you think we're getting the DLC announced around the corner? Do you think they have some kind of curveball planned where we actually get way later into the year before we see it and acknowledged or announced in any way, shape, or form? And how do you feel about this tournament taking place this weekend without any new courses to experience? And definitely share with me your thoughts and opinions on the latest round of updates for Nintendo Switch Online, the base tier. Do you think Nintendo ever does surprise us with some big fan titles on the NES and SNES that people really want to see? Or do you think that we are at the bottom of the barrel with that particular library of games, and really these smaller no-name games will be how they continue to support these classic libraries going forward? And bonus question, when do you think we will see an announcement for something like Game Boy family of systems being added into the service in the future? So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch yesterday's video next if you haven't already, where we boot up Wind Waker HD together and have that long dreaded conversation of what to do if you're a Zelda fan and these games don't end up coming to the Nintendo Switch. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.